I need to go send out Antonio Brown trade offers to everyone.
And welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast, brought to you by the Dynasty Football Network and DynastyFootballFactory.com. My name is Michael Cipes. You can find me on Twitter at FFBlitz, and I'm here with my partners, Jeremy Browand.
Hey, what's up, big wide world of Dynasty football?
At DFF_Madman. And of course, you heard Shane Manila is already trying to do something with AB.
So I was going to start off the show with oh, hey, since the last time we spoke, AB's been released and now he's with another team, or I forget if that's where we left off. And right now I'm in, oh shit, I need to trade him immediately. But how do I do it? Because, you want to send a trade offer out, right, immediately on these. But if it's too low, someone's going to immediately check Twitter and go, what? Why are you doing that? So now I have to find an offer that's somewhat not too bad, but...
It's kind of funny. You're actually trying to tell people how to rip somebody off.
This isn't ripping someone off. Look,
it is if you're saying you hope they didn't see the news.
That's their fault. It's 2019. If you don't know to check Twitter... or check Sleeper, or just check the internet before you accept a trade that's clearly low, well, that's on you. I'm sorry.
It is crazy. This has been a stupid ride that we've all been riding on with AB the last couple of days.
So the breaking news right now, and I'm sure everyone will know by the time they hear this, is AB has been accused of rape in a civil federal lawsuit. It's civil right now. It must be noted that it's not a criminal thing. So we have no idea how this is going to end, except that I need him off my roster in the one league that I made a trade. And guess what? Trade alert.
Uh-oh. Why?
Yeah.
You traded him?
Yeah. So I traded for him last week. After he signed with the Patriots. I went ahead and traded for him. So I traded Kerryon Johnson, and I got Antonio Brown and a second-round draft pick.
Okay. And when you say last week, wasn't that just like 3 days ago?
It was literally 3 days ago. And I was losing the poll 59% to 41% on Twitter, and this is before the rapes accusations.
Oh, my God.
And
are you surprised that stuff comes out about this clown? God, I mean, the guy's just like a magnet for stuff. I mean, and I think he enjoys it.
It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, sorry. Well, what's the trade alert that you just had?
That was the trade alert. I traded for AB after he signed with the Patriots. So I got Antonio Brown and a 2020 second for Kerryon Johnson, which quickly looks like it's going to be a 2020 second for Kerryon Johnson because unless someone hopefully is stupid enough to accept this offer immediately.
You know, it's funny. I just thought the way you jumped into it right after us talking about it, I thought you did a trade right now.
No, I might as well just get that trade out of the way. Hopefully, dear God, someone accepts anything I offer because I'm trying, man.
One share left of Antonio Brown, and that was Saturday. I was at the Ohio State football game with my wife, and I saw a trade from Tim Torch. I'd actually missed it. I don't remember when he sent it, but it was sitting in my queue. And I happened to see the email, and I went and I just accepted it because I saw that AB was released by the Raiders. And I was like, I'm just tired of this guy. I don't care. The trade was, good enough. I didn't even haggle. I was just like, finally, he's off my roster. All I got was Tevin Coleman, LaShawn McCoy, and Damian Williams. And I gave up both Brown and Duke Johnson. I knew he wanted Duke Johnson. I don't really need him. Can't say that. Duke's a good player, but I probably could have gotten more. But right after, you sent me that trade before he was released. AB was released from the Raiders. But I swear to God, it was just such a great feeling when I got rid of him. It felt good to lose that guy from my only share on my only team.
Like Shane says, by tomorrow, who knows what this story is going to hold, and maybe he'll be off the Patriots by tomorrow. So we have a lot of news to go over because...
Well, not really.
Well, first of all,
we have one piece of news that everyone else hasn't covered yet.
Okay, but what you're saying is news. The other part of the show that you want to go over all these players, it's essentially news because what I was trying to say was this was week one and a lot of shit has happened. So let's
just so negative, dude.
Geez, really? So the one piece of news brought to you by rotorsurance.com. Use the code DynastyTradesHQ all in caps and get 20% off. Go ahead, Shane. What's the one news that nobody else talked about?
Oh, big trade. Before Antonio Brown was accused of rape, the Patriots made a trade, and they traded Demaryius Thomas to the New York Jets for a 6th round 2021 pick.
Yeah, that was like an hour or 2 hours ago. I wonder if they knew that this story was going to break an hour later.
I'm going to think no. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, they didn't know it was coming.
I mean, not that, Demaryius Thomas is anything special anymore. I mean, clearly he's not Antonio Brown, but he's still depth, and he's probably better than, most teams' 5th wide receiver or whatever he was there.
It's funny, on a personal level, I would actually like to be called not Antonio Brown now, the way you just said it.
Wonder, don't you, a little bit about the whole thing with the Patriots and their owner? Like, Florida doesn't like that man, clearly, already, with what happened before, and the sting operation in Florida, and, busting him, and I don't know if that comes from him beating up on the Dolphins for so many years or what, but it's funny that this latest story kind of comes out of Florida too, where Brown was hanging with this woman. I realize that it's not just centered on Florida, but I think it's funny because I picture the Patriots owner just getting people trying to get back at him for all the wins and the alleged cheating and just all the things. Florida really hates that man.
That's a real big stretch to connect those dots.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was some incredible mental gymnastics right there. I will go on record, and I want to say unequivocally, Dynasty Trades HQ has always been against rape in any form.
Oh my
Nothing
God!
to do with any Patriots or the state we live in.
Oh my gosh!
No, I wasn't saying that.
So, no, I know what you're saying, but yeah. Okay, so DT got traded, and does it even really matter?
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. So Adam Gase was his offensive coordinator, back in Denver. Basically Adam Gase was Peyton Manning's, water boy. But either way, he was technically the offensive coordinator when DT was there. And Adam Gase basically lost his shit Monday about his receivers. He put the entire blame of that game, that loss, on the receivers. Now, everyone except for Jamison Crowder, because Jamison Crowder had an insane 17 targets, and he took in 14 of those. Guess how many yards he had? You're guessing probably like 300, right? Like he probably set the single game record.
Nah,
14 receptions, right?
What, like about 150?
Well, I'll try 99.
Oh, really? He didn't even break 100?
No, he did not. He did not break 100. So just real quick, because it's fun to extrapolate things, he's on pace to see 272 targets this year.
272.
Which is really
for a total of how many yards?
And he's on pace for 224 receptions. Which is that'd be a record. 224 receptions, but it would only be for 1,584 yards. So that would not be a record.
It's so funny how the internet tells everybody, don't overreact about week 1. But when you extrapolate a game from week 1 over what he's going to have the whole year, that's kind of an exaggeration.
Yeah, I love that. But anyway, just back to the DT point. So, yeah, he was not happy basically with the receiver core.
No.
And I have to assume that doesn't refer again to Jamison Crowder because he caught pretty much everything that was thrown his way. Robbie Anderson, as our friend Etan Mosier likes to call him, Roby, he had a tough game, but he's also going to have a tough year. He's locked up with a ton of just some of the best cornerbacks in the league all season long. DT could come in there and be the second wide receiver.
I like Demaryius Thomas. I think he's still got something left. I think this year he's fine. I mean, I'm fine with trading for players that can help you, this year if they end up in a good situation. I thought trading Antonio Brown, the reason I made that trade was specifically to get LaShawn McCoy, specifically because of the team he now plays for. And like I said, I was just happy to get out from underneath that guy once and for all. But I really wanted to get a piece of that off, the Chiefs offense. And I think that, I think it was simply one season. I was thinking AB, one season of AB, one season of Sean McCoy, whatever. Let's see what happens. And I think DT could have a really good year, like Shane's saying. Why not? There are elements of redraft that you bring into Dynasty. I mean, if you ever want to win, you're going to have to do something to fix your team, quickly. Demaryius Thomas. I mean, you might need a receiver, Demaryius Thomas. I just think that you have to use a lot of different tactics to build your team, and sometimes you have injuries and things that happen, and you're not going to trade for a young guy. You pay up, get off waivers, whatever you have to do to get a guy in an ideal situation or a situation you think that's going to be beneficial fantasy, even if it's just for a freaking season.
And here's the thing: so until Chris Herndon returns in week 5, right?
Yeah.
5. So DT could give you a couple weeks. I mean, we're Dynasty, obviously, but you want to win next week, So
lost week 1.
Yeah, if he can step in there and if he gets 10 targets, whatever, I'll take, even if I think he's shot, which I think he's mostly shot, but I think he could catch 6 passes for 60 yards. I think he could do that. So, I mean, he's worth a waiver ad if he's still available on any teams. I'm not going to trade for him because I won't trade anything of value. But if he's available in any leagues, I'd pick him up.
That's a good
point. Oh, breaking news.
Okay.
Antonio Brown.
They have the breaking news like right that second.
Exactly.
Sorry, there's a source. Josina Anderson is citing a Patriot source that Antonio Brown's going to countersue his accuser for civil extortion.
I bet that's
By the end of tonight, this might all be over.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of those kind of things, like it's a he said, she said right this second. So you never know. Like we said, by tomorrow, this might be a totally different story. And that's the way it's been. That's
the bottom here of Dynasty Trades HQ.
Yeah, and that's the way it's been this past week. It's like 1 minute he's on, 1 minute he's off, blah, blah, blah. And like you even said with the trade on Saturday, I was at a convention this weekend. When I went into the convention on Saturday morning, he was a Raider. And when I came out of there, he was a Patriot. I missed the whole thing. It happened the whole time I was in the convention. But there was a lot of injuries this week too, with it being opening weekend of football. So like when you were talking about with Herndon being out or whatever, there's a lot of players that got a chance to play and shine where we didn't even expect them to even play in week 1. So one of the things we were going to talk about this week is, some of the week 1 reactions and takeaways of dynasty value for some of these players that all of a sudden got value and all of a sudden lost value.
Yeah, and you know what? Just as we bring some of these guys up, I think it's going to be. I have a couple trades in leagues that I'm in. I saw not that I was directly involved in, that I saw that I thought were interesting. So right off the bat, I mean, I don't even know where to start. There's so many different players, but I'm going to go ahead.
I was going to start with somebody.
Oh, I was going to say John Ross.
Oh, okay. If you want to say John Ross.
John Ross lost his ever-loving mind. He dropped 158 yards on 12 targets. 12 targets, dude. 7 receptions, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yep, nope. I think that was his great game for the season. I know AJ Green's out; they need some help at receiver. I did see one of the plays, one of the score, and dude, I doubt every cornerback's going to play that sloppy. I mean, that said, he is fast. We know that. He came into the league. I mean, take a flyer on the guy. I'm certainly not going to overpay for John Ross because he's not somebody that I'm looking at long term. But, I mean, he did what he did. Marquise Brown, too. I'm not a John Ross fan. I have never been one. I'm not surprised that he's catching the ball. Also, Andy Dalton. I don't expect Andy Dalton to do what he did last week more than maybe one time next year. Take it away from him.
What's the time frame on AJ Green right now?
Several more weeks. I mean, they've really haven't come out to say when he might be practicing again.
So do you think, well, Jeremy just said what he would do, but what about you, Shane? Are you going to try to trade him or trade for him or try to get him?
No, I mean, I'm not going to trade for him because at this point, this is the highest price you're ever going to pay because he just lost his mind.
And he was free, just about free until this game. And honestly, you could get him so cheaply in startup drafts, and a lot of people had given up on him.
Yeah, and you know what? And speaking of that, there was a trade today in one of the leagues that I'm in, and I was not involved.
Yep.
So it was the trade was Sony Michael or Michelle, whichever you want to call him, Sony Michael for John Ross, straight up.
You guys know I'm not the biggest Sony Michel. It has a lot to do with the Patriots, though. Being on the Patriots, I steer clear of the running backs most of the time. I would still take Sony Michel over John Ross, but that's my bias too. But I'm playing my teams going for Michel instead of Ross. Bias or not, that's how I'm genuinely doing it. I'm not giving it saying you should do that. But that's how I'm doing it. I would not take John Ross for Sony Michel. I feel like that's a loss.
Yeah,
Michael?
I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't do that trade either. I mean, it also all depends on what team you have, and if you've got like 10 running backs on your roster and no wide receivers, maybe you might do it. But I mean, still, listen, up until last week, like he just said, John Ross was a player that you could get off of waivers a couple months ago in the offseason or thrown in on a trade or whatever. And Sony Michel, people were drafting pretty high in startup drafts and stuff. So just because one game doesn't all of a sudden make him worthy of trading for him. But that also being said, we've said a million times, I would never want a running back on the Patriots. You just never know who's going to be the one that's going to do it.
Well, that's incorrect, but
it's not. It's my opinion. It doesn't matter whether you think it's correct or not.
but it's factually wrong, so it does matter.
It's not factually wrong.
No,
Who was the leading running back this week for the Patriots?
You didn't watch any games, but it was Rex Burkhead.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
so then that's
But
my point. So that's my
Michel also had a bad game against them last year because
Okay,
apparently that's just what he does.
And that
Their
was my
game plan.
point. That's the point I was trying to make. With the Patriots, every week a different guy could be the leader for that week, and that's not factually incorrect. It happens all
Well, it
the
actually
time.
is because Sony Michel was the leading rusher in more than 60 or 70% of the games that he actually started.
Okay,
last
so is
year.
60% every game? No, that's a little bit more than half. So that means in 40% of the games, he wasn't the leader. And that was my point.
I would say that 60% is much more than just a couple games.
Okay, so what's 40% then? Is that only 2 games? They play 16
Oh my God,
games.
That's it. Now I'm going to bring it up.
Bring it up. But you make it sound like that's the most unrealistic thing ever
Mike,
said about the
any
Patriots.
Consolation, year over year, because you guys will split hairs on so many different things. Year over year, I'd rather have a running back like David Johnson in a situation where you have more of a bell cow situation. Obviously, a back that you think is going to get the bulk of the work than Patriots back because of the game scripting. The plan. I'm not comfortable with it to go in and look and see. Okay, which back is likely to get the bulk of the work? Is it going to be Rex Burkhead this week? Is it going to be Sony Michel next week? Is
James White?
Sony Michel doesn't play well against. I mean, I may as well be playing DFS instead of Dynasty when I'm playing like that. I just know that I don't want a Patriots running back in any position on my starting roster unless it's my flex position.
And that's all I was saying.
I just avoid the situation, and there are plenty of other teams with running backs to avoid the situation with.
Now, see, I don't like Sony Michel particularly either, just because he's not involved in the passing game. But the Patriots running back, typically 80% of the weeks you're going to know what's going to happen. It's going to be Sony Michel is going to get rushing yards, and he's going to be the touchdown guy, hopefully, if you're his owner. And James White is going to be the receiving guy. Rex Burkhead was a fluke of it was an anomaly this week, and that's how it is going to be most weeks.
And that's the
they
point.
usually have one
know.
guy that's
you just made the
lead
point.
runner.
Exactly. That's my point, right,
Mike's
Jeremy?
acting like you have literally no idea. Like it's James Devlin's going to lead the team in rushing.
That's
one week.
that. No,
I like pass catching backs anyway. So James White fits that mold. He's somebody that maybe is a little bit more, reliable. He had a heck of a year last year. If you could get that out of him, even every other week, I'd want that guy on my team. So, I guess I lied when I said I don't want any players, but I want the back that's getting the bulk of the passing game action for sure on a team like that. But still, I steer clear because I don't trust that I can't have the faith in one of their backs like you can with Jacobs for the Raiders and David Johnson for the Cardinals. Just so many teams. Hell, Sanders in Philadelphia once he gets rolling. And I know we're going to talk about him a little more here today.
Yeah, no, I get your point because I much rather, specifically for my teams, my rosters, I want a guy that can do both things.
Good.
I'm
glad you agree with Jeremy. I'm glad you agree with Jeremy when he says the same thing that I said.
That's not what you said.
Okay. All right. Fine. Let's go on to the next guy. So when you talk about injuries and you talk about idiots that do stuff in real life, Tyreek Hill, he got paid after doing whatever he did in the offseason, and then he goes out there and he gets hurt, and then Sammy Watkins gets to have like the game of his career.
Wow. Yeah, just wow.
Sammy Watkins looked absolutely amazing. And a couple of guys have noted this as well. And I think I actually spoke about it when I was on a Dynasty Happy Hour with our buddy Memphis. He was on there with me with Tyler. Sammy Watkins? Yeah, Sammy Watkins. He looks like he's fast again, right? Because I don't know if you saw the highlights, but last year he looked like a possession receiver.
Yeah, he really did. Get over that injury. I mean, finally, I know some of those things linger, like when you're talking about feet, and ankles. I mean, is it possible that stuff was kind of still hampering him? We know he wasn't 100% healthy through much of his career. Was that the case up until he's 100% healthy last week? I mean, Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, this might have been the only time he's ever been healthy in his career. With Tyreek Hill gone, obviously he's going to be the man there, tied to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you want to get out on Sammy, you don't believe he's going to be, that what we saw is, again, an aberration. No one's going to put up 198 yards a week and 3 touchdowns. That's just ridiculous. But, something along the lines of like 100 yards, something less insane. Do you sell him now? Is this his peak? Because at some point Tyreek Hill is going to come back, right? And when we hear that Tyreek Hill is going to come back, I would think that's going to depress Sammy's value.
I think this goes back to a discussion that you and I had on Twitter like 2 weeks ago or so. This is only week 1, and yeah, he may be the highest he'll be for you to trade, but like Jeremy said a few minutes ago, you want to win now. So why trade him just because it's the highest you could get him for when you might get the production from him for a bunch of weeks? I would rather keep him. I did trades this offseason to get him, and I got ripped a lot of places. Even in that Trade Addict 7, I did a trade with Bobby, and everybody ripped me for giving a second-round pick for Sammy Watkins. And in the listener league, Jeremy, remember a couple weeks ago, Shane traded 2 firsts and a player to get Corey Davis, and I traded 2 firsts and a player to get Sammy Watkins and Kenny Golladay. And Shane's reaction was meh to that trade. But Kenny Golladay and Sammy Watkins scored me almost double Justin's score this week in the listener league. So I would be happy to keep him. I get what you're saying about selling him high, and maybe I'd sell him high if I was a team that had no chance to ever win anything. Like maybe if he's the only good player on my team. But if I have a good team, I wouldn't trade him right now just because his value is high.
Well, okay, so the opposite reason, or the reasons that someone might sell on him, this is the first time, or at least he has a history of injuries where he's never played a full season. He's played a full season, I think, once in his career. Yeah, his rookie year.
Right.
He's missed 8 games in 1 year, 6 games in another. He's only played 1 game this year.
Right.
Out of 1 game. Never mind.
It's only been 1
looking
week.
At the stats, I'm like, wow, he missed 15 games that year. That's awful. Oh, wait, that's this year. But so there's also the fact that he's a $21 million cap hit if the Chiefs, Jesus, I can't speak English. If the Chiefs decide to hold on to him next year, he's a $21 million cap hit. Mm-hmm. Now, with the money that they just paid Tyreek, and, this is with the caveat that Tyreek doesn't end up in prison and void that contract. Can you tie up $40 million into 2 wide receivers? I mean, and then obviously there's always the chance that they can restructure it with them and things like that. That's actually, plausible. But just assume he's cut free from that offense. And, we've seen him struggle in new situations, including last year. And he does have the history of foot and many other issues. I don't even feel like going on WebMD and looking it up, but he's had a ton of injuries. And I love Sammy.
I know. That's why I always thought it was funny,
It's disappointing, that he hasn't been more successful. I mean, just in general in football, but in fantasy, because that guy checks all the boxes. I mean, he always has. And and then, the seasoning that he's got as a pro, he runs decent routes. It's just a shame that things just didn't pan out. And maybe they finally have. Here's the thing. It's not going to be McCole Hardman as a rookie, an unpolished guy that gets any kind of consistent action, that's for sure, but probably not much. It's going to be spot stuff throughout the year. I mean, with Hill out, you're right. Sammy Watkins is the guy you want in that receiving core for sure, because he's a vet and he's got that kind of talent. I'm with Mike, though. I think I'd like to hold on to him. I mean, maybe this is peak value. I don't know, but I'd like to hold on to him to see if he can help my teams. But I own him. I just checked it on only one team in MFL. It's like a deep Devy league. I'm sure I could trade him to somebody. I have a pretty competitive team. It's a team, though, that I'm probably doing what we're just saying, hanging on to him because he's going to be one of my best receivers now with Michael Thomas, Kenny Galladay, Godwin. It's one of those leagues where you can start up to like 6 or 7 wide receivers, super flex. So, I can roll out all those wide receivers. I'm probably going to hang on to him for now. And then maybe move him a little bit later on, kind of temper my just see what happens on the horizon rather than getting antsy and getting rid of him.
So there were 2 trades. One I'm actually involved with.
Okay.
So it's a Devy league. I traded Sammy Watkins and a 4th round pick, which is either a 2nd round rookie pick or a 2nd round Devy pick. I honestly don't know.
Right.
I don't know that. I mean. So let's just call it a 3rd round rookie pick is probably what its equivalent is, right?
Uh-huh.
So I traded Sammy Watkins and that 4th round pick for DJ Moore.
Okay. See, and that's a different situation then. Like, what is your team like? What is that team? Is it because first of all, I hate those heavy stupid leagues. Well, then that's the thing. If it's bad and you believe that this Sammy thing is not a consistent thing, we all know that you love DJ Moore and you still think that DJ Moore is going to turn into something. My point with Sammy, and even in a Devy league, remember I told you, like, what was it, at the end of the season last year? Somebody sent me a trade offer in a Devy league where they offered me Sammy for somebody, I didn't even know their name, and I went and looked at my taxi squad, and he was a freshman in college, a freshman. So I said, yeah, sure, you can have this freshman who may never play for Sammy Watkins. So, I mean, I agree with what you're saying that maybe he definitely has never played a full season. But at the same time, you can also say maybe this is now the time that he will play a full season. And everybody has Patrick Mahomes like drafted as the first quarterback, and he's the greatest quarterback. So you got to think that the weapons he has are going to do something if they're going to expect him to do something. So I'm just happy to have him now. I'm not going to sell him high.
Even in full health, I think you should be able to expect at least him to be a wide receiver 3, even when Tyreek Hill comes back. If he stays healthy, I think at worst you have a wide receiver 3 on your roster. Yeah. So
And in this entire offseason, all the trades that I did, I ended up with him on 11 rosters. And I'm in 18 leagues, and out of those 18 leagues, 6 of them are like best ball charity stuff. So I'm really only in 12. But
I'm with Shane though. I'd much prefer to have DJ Moore, 4 years or whatever younger, on up and coming roster. I mean,
his team's on an up and coming roster. He said it's a bad roster. Yeah,
I said that.
I would do it too on that roster. Yes.
But DJ Moore, I would prefer straight up for Sammy Watkins in dynasty leagues. But I like, of course, try to get more when you trade a player as much as you can and know what the current value is. So now if you were trying to do what Shane pulled off, Sammy should be able to fetch you something like that after this exciting week. No, I mean, you should. What do you think you could get for Sammy Watkins now, Shane?
I did it this week. DJ Moore.
You did have Sunday's games? Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing to say also, first of all, for those of you listening, Jeremy is actually on his phone this evening because he was having a problem with his internet. So that's why you keep hearing his voice going in and out when he's talking and stuff like that. He's on a phone. So,
here now it's in. I'm going to turn the camera off and just talk like this.
Yeah, maybe turn the camera off, but you do keep going in and out. But that's exactly what I said, Shane. I would keep him on those teams that are contending, but maybe on a team like the team you did, I could see trading him to get DJ Moore. What was the other trade? You said there was 2 trades.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, there was one other trade, and I wasn't involved in it, and I also thought it was interesting. Someone gave up Sammy Watkins and got Chris Carson back in return.
See,
Really?
that one,
Yeah.
that one is an interesting one too, because the way Chris Carson played, especially on a team where if you need a starting running back, I would trade him then to get Sammy Watkins. It all depends on your roster makeup and what you need, but that one's a pretty good trade to get him.
See, here's the thing with Chris Carson right now. He outtouched Rashad Penny something like
It was a huge amount.
17-6, just something ridiculous. I forget what the stat was, but it was something along those lines.
Exactly.
And he actually saw 6 targets too. And I think he caught all 6 passes. If Penny can't even get on the field for receiving work,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like Penny might actually be dead, and Carson is going to be the running back, assuming health again. He looks amazing. If you might have gotten an RB, I don't know, what do you want to call him? A high-end RB2, a high-end RB2 every week in your lineup.
Yep.
For a guy that you might not believe in, and Sammy, who might not be able to walk all that often.
Yeah, and also the difference is we all know it's way more difficult to get you that running back that you can consistently put in your starting lineup than it is to get you a wide receiver that you can put in your starting lineup.
Oh, and also Seattle works that starting running back in so well. Like Shane said, you're plugging that guy in every week because of the action he's getting, and in the passing game on top of it. Sure, I want the pass catching back over Sammy Watkins.
If you want to talk about, because Chris Carson was actually not even on this list of value takeaways, but there was a lot of players that actually had these humongous games that now people are talking about. And the other one, like the next one, even on our piece of paper here, is TJ Hawkinson. I mean, for a rookie tight end to come out and have such a huge game in the very first week of fantasy football, that's very, very unusual.
Yeah, and I need to put it out there because I was talking up Noah Fant already, and I'm not giving up on him. I mean, it's one game,
right?
But it must be noted that TJ Hawkinson came out and just eviscerated everything.
Everything.
Yes, he eviscerated the earth with 6 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets.
Right, and I think anyone should say that Matt Stafford is an upgrade to Joe Flacco on any day of the week, even if Matt Stafford is half alive in a hot tub somewhere, or missing one of his feet. I don't know, just whatever analogy you can come up with for playing poorly. Joe Flacco is not Matt Stafford.
Joe Flacco is trash.
Yeah, the Lions. The Lions are pretty good.
It should be noted that also that Stafford threw 45 times this week, which and the game went to overtime. So there was additional time obviously out there. Or additional targets to be had. So I don't know how many times that he's actually going to do that, because that's not really, under Darrell Bevell, that's not something that happens often.
That's a great point. But just knowing that he can do it, and that now we don't really have to wonder if TJ Hawkinson is going to be a good pro tight end. I mean, he played well that game. Any doubts were cast aside, but it doesn't mean he's going to have an incredible season or anything like that, but it sure was cool to see him pull that off in week 1. My God.
Also, just one other thing to temper that. Arizona's defense is just garbage.
Yeah.
And remember, they're without their 2 starting cornerbacks. And I'm not trying to, downplay what he did. I'm just trying to give you, some context to it so you don't go out there thinking that TJ Hawkinson. Oh, Jesus. I was about to call him Gronk. Gronkinson. So he does, just don't expect him to go out there and drop that every week, but he's still going to be obviously a very good tight end and probably one of the upper tier ones.
It's funny too, because when you talk about the situation and the team that they played against, the other rookie that had an amazing day was Marquise Brown, but against the Dolphins, where the Ravens beat the Dolphins, what was it, 59-10?
Yeah.
I mean,
the Dolphins gave up immediately. It was terrible. Now there was, he had a deep touchdown, but he also had a beautiful where he took a slant and just turned upfield, and you just saw the separation skills. But also, it did not look like Miami was really that intent on trying to chase him. Once he got past that first level, it was kind of like, I'm okay.
Well, we've known it for months how much you love Lamar Jackson. But, I mean, that whole team against the Dolphins was just ridiculous. For Lamar Jackson, wasn't he like the leading quarterback for the week in fantasy after playing the Dolphins? Is that going to happen every week against the Dolphins? Whoever plays is going to be the best team?
There's a pretty good chance, yeah. And they play the Patriots.
I know.
So if you were thinking about starting Tom Brady or someone else, I would lean Tom Brady there.
Tom Brady, you think?
Yeah. So I wanted to. So I had some fun just looking up at Marquise Brown's stats, and at this point, everybody's kind of brought up the point that he only played 14 total snaps.
And what was his numbers?
He only ran 8 routes. He was targeted. He had 5 targets on 8 routes run. So I don't know what the math works out to there, but that's like for every route he ran, it's like 40. He was targeted like 16. I don't even know how the math works. Let's see. If you run
make
8
up
routes,
numbers so much.
You're targeted 5 times. That means you were targeted.
Explain it, though, because between the English lesson and the math lesson, I feel like I'm being schooled right now.
I like the 60%, 70%, 80% before. Go ahead.
So it's at least 96% of the time he ran a route, he was targeted.
Okay.
Math might not be right on that. You might want to check that. But here's this one's right. He ran 8 routes, had 4 receptions. That means 50% of the time that he ran a route, he caught the ball.
But he had 147 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yes. So he scored 30.7 points, right? Now, last year, Mike Williams actually led all wide receivers in fantasy points per touch with 3.60. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Marquise Brown on Sunday averaged 7.67 fantasy points per touch.
Oh, my God. You know what's funny?
Doubled the league leader last year. Now, obviously, it's 1 game.
Can you imagine if this whole stupid stuff didn't come out tonight about AB? Can you imagine what AB and Tom Brady were going to do against the Dolphins this weekend?
Oh, my God.
Look, I don't even know if AB's not going to play still. I mean,
yeah, he may. You don't know, but
trade alert.
What's the trade alert?
And this is actually pretty good. All right, well, I'm about to make this trade. It was offered to me, and this is because we were just talking about Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown or a 2020 first-round draft pick, which is going to be in the bottom of a 12-teamer.
Wait. Do you have Marquise Brown or do you have the pick?
Well, which side do you like?
Well, it makes a difference. I mean, right now it goes back to what we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Context. I didn't want to give it away before you at least said something, but yeah, I totally get it. It's I would be getting Marquise Brown for the bottom, say 9, 10, 11, 12 in the first round in 2020.
No question. I would give that pick away. Wasn't Marquise Brown a first round pick this year from people? And he
a lot of people, yes.
Yeah.
He was in most of these leagues, and that's how I'm looking at it. You guys know I'm not a big Marquise Brown guy. I'm not. That's not my guy. Right. Never has been. I know he's talented, but I just didn't buy into his success as a pro. Certainly not sustainable success as a pro. I have my reasons. But, I wouldn't I have to be stupid not to make this trade?
Yes, you would.
Do you think, Shane?
I don't think you'd be stupid. No. I think you could. Oh, calm down, Michael. I think it's team. He was the first receiver off the board this year.
Yes,
in most drafts, yeah.
Well, no, in the NFL draft, not in
rookie draft,
fantasy drafts. I'm sorry, I can't speak English tonight. Not in fantasy drafts.
About I wasn't even thinking rookie drafts. I was thinking rookies in startup drafts. But that probably wasn't N'Keal Harry. I'd have to look back at that.
Not AJ Brown. But either way, I wouldn't say you're stupid if you turn it down just because those 2020 picks are so valuable. But I definitely could take it.
Yeah, and I think you could get that 2020 pick back later, and I would do it, and I would do that trade right now.
I'm not so sure,
it's
though.
Not about hope that this guy plays well with Jackson going forward. I mean, not every week is he going to pull that off, but they do need some young receivers on that team. If you hadn't noticed, they have a couple guys, but they have a bunch of dudes and old players too.
Well, that's the point.
Like Jags and old guys.
That's the point. Even if he doesn't do this same thing every week, which obviously he's not, because they're not going to play the Dolphins every week, but he's still the main wide receiver there right now. Who else is higher than him on that roster?
They have Snead, and they have Willie Snead, and they have guys that could do things. What's the guy, Seth Roberts? Or isn't that the guy from the?
He's trash. Everyone else,
exactly.
It's Miles Boykin, Mark Andrews, and Marquise Brown, and they're not going to invest in another wide receiver probably in our lifetimes.
And this year, probably, right? And not this year. Boykin could develop. That's fine. I think that just helps.
Do it, Jeremy. Do it.
Do
I say do it. Do it.
Do it. I said do it right away.
The funny thing is too that the name of this team is Shane Less is great. Shameless is great. Instead of shameless, because you're not in this league with me and Cipes.
Oh, it's in that league with Bosch?
Shameless is great. Yeah, we brought him into our long-standing league here.
And by the way, that's the league that I've won 2 years in a row, back-to-back, correct?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did, man.
Shit, I shouldn't have told you to do the deal then.
Dude, you know something? I went from what? I was at the bottom of the barrel the first year after the startup draft, which I think is unusual, but I was. And then I got Saquon Barkley, and then last year I went from the bottom to I lost in the playoffs, I think, and maybe you beat me and then you won it all. But I turned that team around in one season.
Yeah, well, I won it 2 years in a row, and then I traded into this draft, and I got Josh Jacobs and Devin Singletary, so I was happy. And speaking of Devin, what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to bring up another small running back.
Yes.
So Tariq Cohen.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
So
love him.
Yeah, I'm saying sell him now. 10 targets, 8 receptions for 49 yards, which is trash.
Yeah.
No rushing attempts. Not one. Not a singular one.
Yeah. Use him as a slot receiver. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was telling you guys how I thought that was a good thing. Not that they're bringing in David Montgomery. He's not going to get carries, but being such a man slight of stature, you worry about those guys holding up for an entire season. I think he's electric. He's shown that he can be electric in the passing game, but not just, out of the backfield on, screen passes and stuff, but the fact that they were using him 20% of the time last year, almost, I think it was 19% of the time, he was used in the slot as a receiver. And I think that's ramped up more. You probably have the numbers in front of you, but I actually like that they're using him as a receiver. I'll take those 8 targets, or 8, and he turned them into 8 catches, but the 8 PPR points and whatever, the 50 yards, I don't know what he get, like 13, 14 points. I'll take that from a guy like that. And I never have paid a lot for Tariq Cohen. I just feel like he's still an asset, and I love the player, so I'm definitely biased there. But you don't think he can sustain the slot work this season, or you do think he's garbage? What's the
No, I think Anthony Miller was clearly limited, and Trey Burton was out. And once they're back, then he's going to be squeezed for targets. And again, he's a one-dimensional player.
Yeah, at this point he is. He's basically a receiver, and he's not, like you said, probably the primary receiver most weeks. And my God, dude, Mitch Trubisky, what the hell? That guy looks like trash. I'm putting him up there with my Winston loathing soon if he doesn't turn it around.
Well, before we go into Trubisky and David Montgomery and a couple of other players there, we do have to hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we're going to hear from the Scouting Academy. But before we hear from the Scouting Academy, we have a new affiliate, right, Shane?
We do.
And who is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Expand the Box Score. Our good friend People Pens.
Andy Singleton.
Yeah, he's got a site. It's Expand the Box Score. If you haven't checked it out, you really should. It is a really awesome site, especially if you're a stat head and you're looking for data. So if you actually use our promo code HQ Trade Alert 10, all capital letters except for the 10 because that's a number. So hot HQ Trade Alert 10. It saves you 10% off your sign up, and it's worth it, man. I would pay full price for it, and in fact, I did as soon as it came out. And the site. Yeah, and it's actually grown in leaps and bounds since it first came out. It's a great site. So again, Expand the Box Score. Go ahead and use HQ Trade Alert 10.
Awesome. Go check it out. And here's the Scouting Academy.
Scout NFL football like a pro. Invest in yourself and get a degree in player evaluation and assessment from the Scouting Academy. They've educated NFL GMs, personnel directors, and dozens of NFL scouts. Enroll today and you'll watch the same game tape NFL coaches watch. You'll learn to look past the metrics with position-by-position analysis. This is a time-tested curriculum, a chance to learn from the NFL execs and coaches. Sign up today and get a Dynasty Football Factory exclusive discount for limited time only. Save $50 when you sign up at DynastyFootballFactory.com.
All right, so yeah, if you want to learn to scout like a pro, go ahead and hit up our site and get yourself a discount while you're at it.
Yeah, and when you mentioned go to our site to get a discount for that, we also have a huge new program over there at our website, right? That you can get into something by signing up.
Yes. So basically, you can get a free year membership to not Dynasty Trades HQ because we're not our own website, but you can get a free year membership to Dynasty Football Factory, Factory Sports. All you got to do is there's a link on our site. We have one site. So all you need to do is you go on the site, you go to the membership pages, the shop page, and you can see that there's a big DraftKings thing there. You just hit that link, you sign up through that link, you get, if you deposit $20, you get $10 in free DK bucks, which is pretty good because you're spending 20 and you're actually getting 30, which is a great deal. And then to make the deal even better, you get a free year membership of Factory Football, which is Dynasty Football Factory, and Redraft Football Factory, and our IDP Football Factory. Dude, we cover so much, it's ridiculous. We had waivers drop today. I wrote the Dynasty one. I believe Dan wrote our IDP one. Michael Stevenson dropped our redraft. We just, any kind of waivers you need it, we got you today. So go on our site, look for the DraftKings under the memberships, and become a member. Like I said, you spend $20 on DraftKings, you get $10 free in DK bucks, not DK bucks, but in DK bucks, and you get a free year membership to our site.
So that's awesome. Yes, we are affiliated now with DraftKings, and go over there and join through the website, and you'll get a free year with the website. So that's awesome. So we were talking about the Bears, right? And Jeremy was saying how bad Trubisky was, and then the other player that we had on our list here, speaking to Tree Cohen, was David Montgomery, and what you thought should happen or what you should do with David Montgomery going forward.
Well, I mean, I try to buy him. I actually put it out on Twitter. It was either today or yesterday. I lose track of time and sense of reality some days. But I did put out on Twitter that I would pay whatever you were willing to accept for Miles Sanders and David Montgomery last week. I would still pay that this week.
No, your actual words were, I would pay over value. And so then some people started hitting you up on Twitter. What was your value that you had? But yeah, you said you were willing to pay over value for him this time. So what do you consider over value for him?
I don't know. And that's what John asked me. But whatever someone was willing to accept prior to Sunday's games and Thursday's game in David Montgomery's case, I would pay exactly that today. If they were willing to accept a first-round pick and Martavius Valdez-Scantling, even though his name is actually Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
MVS. Just say MVS.
Yeah, MVS. I'd pay that. I'd still pay that. I see no reason to fear over David Montgomery. I'm not worried about Miles Sanders.
Neither. Why worry?
First game. David Montgomery was outsnapped by Tariq Cohen, fine. He was also outsnapped by Mike Davis, which is just ludicrous. And the part of the reason I don't worry about it is because if Matt Nagy continues to make decisions like that, then he's not going to be the coach there much longer. And someone else will be there, and they'll go, oh, wait a minute. So we have this guy that's a full 3-down back, and instead we're giving it to the ball and the snaps to this jag Mike Davis? No.
But isn't it also the fact that Montgomery was a rookie going into this game, and one thing I had heard on the radio that somebody mentioned, which I think is kind of realistic is that maybe they're trying to see what they even have in him. So they put their veterans in a little bit more this week because it's week 1. And so going forward, once they saw what David Montgomery was able to do during that game, that now those targets and those touches could start to balance the other way now that they know that they think he can do what they want him to do. A lot of times they stick those veterans in just because they're not sure what they have. Because Mike Davis isn't going to be the leading toucher every week.
No, and I don't think he was this week. I didn't even look. But I know he definitely outsnapped. He had more snaps than David Montgomery. But again, they lost, which was good because you don't want Matt Nagy to be rewarded for his bad coaching decisions.
Right.
Because then he'll continue to do them. So yeah, I'm hopeful that's going to that'll rectify itself at some point. But again, this is Dynasty. I had a troll that was jumping in my inbox. Actually, a former writer. If he listens to the show, whatever, fuck him.
Oh my goodness.
Well, no, he wasn't. He wasn't with us very long.
No,
he was
I
with
know.
us about a week, and he was such a complete and utter jerk off that we had to let him go. I don't even think he submitted an article.
Okay, but the point is, he jumped on you about David Montgomery?
So he jumped in my DMs about Devin Singletary being better than Miles Sanders. Yeah, it's Dynasty Football, and in case you were wondering, the name of this show is Dynasty Trades HQ. If someone is willing to sell you Miles Sanders for Devin Singletary right now, you better hop on that like, I don't even know, a stripper on a pole, something like that, because that is insane. I didn't know it was going to be very vulgar.
Yeah,
and then I cleaned it up because there was going to be the word dick involved.
Oh no! The poll was fine. The poll was fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, I think that was a good analogy, even though it didn't make a lot of sense. So yeah,
it goes along with the AB story. That's all.
Right. So as we'll Troll Boy continued to go. Miles Sanders, he's only rushed for 2.2 yards, and Devin Singletary's rushed for 70 yards on 4 carries. And I said, it's one game. It's Dynasty football.
Yeah, my goodness, man. What's wrong with people? The logic, they don't have it.
So, but, and as a Dynasty owner, someone that plays Dynasty football, it's your responsibility to go out there and actively sell players like Devin Singletary for better players. And this isn't to say that I don't like Devin Singletary, but if you think he's as good as Miles Sanders, well, I feel.
Well, we'll see, buddy.
Now, listen, I will say this to you. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show about you and I going at each other on Twitter, and we did about a week and a half ago, just because of the Devin Singletary comment that I made when I was talking to the Ball Blast girls on Twitter. She had said, one of them had said something about Devin Singletary, and I said I like Devin Singletary, and then you were like, sell him now, and then I had said,
so
no.
Was Shane blasting your balls after that?
Yes, he was. but the point is, listen, obviously, if somebody sent me Miles Sanders for Devin Singletary, I would have done it in a second. But the conversation that we had on Twitter, you were talking about that you should sell high right now because what's his name? Shady got traded, and then he was going to be the guy, and you're like, cash out now. And we've kind of talked about it already at the beginning of the show about, if you think your team is good and you want to play, keep the guys that are going to get you some points now instead of getting a rookie pick or something.
Which I don't agree with.
Well, I know you said that, and we talked about it through Twitter at least. But I mean, you're saying.
Well, I mean, so some people might not have been privy to the Twitter exchange.
Okay.
So let me just put out my basic concept of
okay,
this.
And then I will tell you mine.
Right. So anytime you have a player with, I want to say, low pedigree, a player that would have to be an outlier to hit, which I think we can agree that would be Devin Singletary. He's not a first or second round draft pick. He's not particularly athletic based off his metrics, and he wasn't a pass catcher in college. So I would say that he is a player that historically doesn't have a great hit rate long term. Devin Singletary is just a proxy in this conversation. It could be any wide receiver,
right.
Preston Williams, someone like that who I like, but it doesn't matter. Any player that's drafted, any player that's not a pillar of your team, I think you should always sell high. And if it's for draft picks, fine. If you can draft Devin Singletary in the second round of this rookie draft and you can sell him for a first round pick in the 2020 draft, you do that 10 times out of 10, because as you keep churning those lower pedigreed or players with a lower hit rate, eventually what's going to happen is if you sell them high, you're eventually going to have a team full of studs, hopefully.
Exactly.
Well, it's more likely because you're going to be investing in players in the first round of the draft, as opposed to second round draft players.
But that's based on the assumption that Devin Singletary, without the draft pedigree of those other two guys, is necessarily a lesser running back. We saw where Kareem Hunt was drafted and how he did in Kansas City.
They're outliers. That's the problem.
And this is
outliers.
Exactly. And this is what
I'm not dealing in outliers, dude. I'm dealing with guys doing things on the field, and you're getting stuck on one idea that you happen to like right now.
No, because these ideas are historical fact.
No. One idea.
No. Yes.
You're stuck on now as far as how you're comparing players is what I'm saying. Now you're on this kick with these outliers and draft pedigree and these things, but you're overlooking that Devin Singletary as a starting running back in Buffalo might just be a fantasy football fucking godsend, dude. I mean, he could be. So you're assuming with what you're saying, he is definitely not, which is not.
Okay.
Assuming it's 80% of players with his, and again, he's a proxy. 80% of the players that fall into this bucket don't hit. Yes, I'm going to miss on 20% of them. Yes, that's fine. But I'd rather trade 100% away, and be 80% correct, and then 20% incorrect.
Okay,
then to 100% of those players and be correct only 20% of the time.
First of all, the numbers. It's so funny how you can make fun of yourself with the numbers, and then when you use the numbers, they just don't seem to work out the right way you're trying to make your argument.
Plus 20 is not 100.
No, but your argument, you're saying you'd give up. We went off track. What you were saying on Twitter that day is what you just said. And I agree. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand what you're saying. And when you say he's an outlier, that is part of the argument. It's fine that he's an outlier, because what you were saying to me, you only talk in absolutes. And that's what I said that day on Twitter. It's no matter what, you do it, you trade it. And when you said if you drafted him in the second round and somebody offers you a first, you do that right away. And you said 10 out of 10 times. And I disagree with that, because first of all, I drafted him in the third round. And when all this stuff happened and I had said on Twitter that I'm happy about it, you were like, you need to trade him right now. And I was like, well, no, I don't want to, because in this case, I think that the opportunity he has right now, regardless of his pedigree, regardless of what he did in college, the opportunity he has right now is something that could end up helping my fantasy team going forward. If I traded him before week 1 even started to get a first round pick next year, that first round pick is going to do nothing for me this year. Maybe I could trade it to get a player or something like that. But I was willing to take that opportunity and take that chance on him. You were telling me on Twitter, you are false. You are wrong. You are incorrect. You are wrong. People should not listen to you. And my only point at the time was that there's other opinions than just that. And he played, according to this right here, you wrote here, he played 70% of the snaps. He got 4 attempts for 70 yards, whatever. It's the first game, you never know. But he is the starting running back there, and there is an opportunity there that can help me with my team, and I'd rather do that than get a first-round pick. Now, I know there was people on Twitter that said, no, I agree with Shane, or no, I agree with Michael. The funniest part is when people said to me, somebody sent me a DM, Michael, I'm really sorry, but I have to agree with Shane. There's no reason to be sorry. I don't care if people don't agree with me. I mean, for me,
it's like
exactly.
People are copying agreeing with me to like cancer. Like, oh, Michael, I'm so sorry.
And to me, the great. And listen, I really appreciate that person said that. But to me, I love, even when you do it, I love when anybody disagrees with my opinion, especially a league mate, because it means they're not going to do what I'm willing to do, and then it helps me win sometimes. But
like Shane said, though, I've done it too, in trading, a third or fourth round guy that you drafted for a first round pick, and you keep doing things like that, and you come rolling out of drafts with, technically.
Right, but it's not absolute. It's not 100% of the time.
Right. It's a great strategy. And, Shane's not wrong in thinking that way, but you're not wrong because you have a starting running back for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat and get a championship. I'm saying you're both right. And, you definitely both also prefer different players.
Yeah, and
that's a big part of this too.
And I agree, and thank you, Jeremy. And Shane, that's the thing. I wasn't saying that you're wrong. Maybe you are correct. The thing I was saying was wrong was the absolutes, where you were saying 100% I was incorrect, and I just didn't agree with that. And I think that everybody has their own way of doing it, and you can't blindly just say, yes, trade him, yes, trade him. There's definitely periods of time where you want rookie picks, and there's periods of time when you want players. And the season hadn't even started yet. I wanted to take a shot and have the player that plays.
Have players like that. I mean, I was very high on Singletary. You guys may not remember when I said that before the Indianapolis, before the I can't think today, before the poor measurements and running and all of that, before he kind of dropped. I thought he was one of the best running backs in the league, and I was going out on a limb, and I think Andy Singleton did too. As like, this is the most talented running back in the draft. I really felt like that, so I like him. But the guy for me, and Shane, you might have one too, a player in this draft, this past rookie draft. For me, Terry McLaurin was a guy. You guys know how much I love Terry McLaurin and how I talked about him and I wrote about him, Fantasy Pros, saying, hey, this is a guy to target in your drafts because he's going to do better than his draft pedigree. He's going to be better than what you paid for him. And I mean, that's holding true now. And, even Christopher Bean said that, the old productive wide receiver guy, our buddy, as well as Shane, hey, those are the guys that, when they do something, trade them away because, there wasn't much invested in them. They're not playing. But when you're talking about a starting wide receiver for the Redskins and I'm playing fantasy football, I mean, that's worth something. Plus, I think he's one of the guys that felt he cracks. I mean, he has everything that an NFL wide receiver has. Now, going by what Shane just said, he's going to probably get rid of a player like that. I know it's not a running back, it's a receiver, but based on the model he was talking about, one way to do things, you get rid of McLaurin because he wasn't drafted in the first round or whatever. I get that. And
You're right though. No, but you're saying that's another outlier then, like you say. But and the other point I had though, and you and I talked about it before, is if you're always just trading for draft picks, then you're always just looking to the future, and you're always just looking to maybe I'll get somebody that maybe might do something for me 2 years after I get him or whatever.
If I get a guy out of the third round who becomes a starter, that's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You can hardly do that half the time in the first round.
Yeah.
So if you get one out of the third and fourth round, you're doing something right. You made a good choice. And I mean, you might want to hang on to that guy. But I see, if you can capitalize and get more than just a pick, you could trade it for a player or something as well. You can capitalize, but I choose to kind of celebrate those small victories and keep those guys on my team because I didn't pay shit for them.
Me too.
Right. Well,
speaking of Terry McLaurin, there was a trade, right?
Exactly. So I wanted to just bring this up, and before we wrap up with this trade, because we got a lot of trades in, and I think we got a lot of strategy discussion in, which I really like.
Me too.
Because I think myself and John Bosch were talking one night, and it's almost as if the players don't matter some days. The names, when you're talking trades, it's just data at that point.
Absolutely.
And truth be known, I actually enjoy that more than I do, I think, the in-season stuff. But anyway, I digress.
Yes.
And I move forward. So this involves one player that, there was a Terry McLaurin trade for Corey Davis that I saw on Twitter that we were tagged in the poll. Hopefully you guys didn't look at the tweet.
No, I didn't see it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet.
Good. So, and I'll bring up the tweet in a minute. So it was just straight up. So let's just recap their week. Corey Davis, Jesus Christ, 0 receptions on 3 targets.
I don't know. It's laughable.
I just laugh because of that whole meh thing with Sammy Watkins and Kenny Galladay. But go ahead.
So now part of that is he did, he was locked up with Denzel Ward. I believe it's Denzel Ward. He played this week. Very good. What do you call that guy? Cornerback, whatever.
Sure.
Yes.
Where Terry McLaurin was locked up with, we'll say an Eagles secondary that is still growing.
Okay.
Corey Davis, 0 receptions on 3 targets, which is just almost impossible. Just another over. Just amazing. For what it's worth, he did, he had a much higher snap share than any other wide receiver on the roster, including A.J. Brown.
But doesn't that make it worse? Doesn't it make it worse if he had that much more?
No, I mean, you'd rather a guy obviously produce, But in lieu of that, you want him at least on the field with targets.
Right, but he had the most snap shares and didn't catch anything. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So A.J. Brown only played 26 snaps, which is 43% of the offensive plays. And he put up over 100 yards on 3 receptions. So anyway, McLaurin, in case you missed it, was absolutely fabulous against my Eagles. And I was watching it, and he should have had another 70-yard touchdown. But overthrow him, and he was wide open. He was off to the races if he could have hit him. So anyway, he had a great week, over 100 yards receiving in his first game. He looked amazing, and I will say that just watching him. So anyway, here is the trade. Again, it's Corey Davis, former top 5 NFL draft.
Yeah, former first overall rookie pick in his class. Most
for Terry McLaurin. Can you just guess what the poll results are?
I'm going to guess. And, the other thing is, when you say the draft pedigree, this goes to the reverse part of what you were talking about before. Wasn't he drafted now? This is his 3rd year now in NFL, right?
Yeah, it's 3rd
Okay.
season.
So he still hasn't done anything that we all wanted him to do, right?
Not yet. I mean, he had some success last year.
Okay.
A lot of targets. Unfortunately, not a lot of production based off this.
Without clicking. What?
I'm just saying he's 24 too. He's 3 years in the league. Yeah.
Without clicking on the Twitter thing, I can tell you I am sure that the Twitter universe is all on the Terry McLaurin side. They have to be.
So what do you think the percentage would be then?
Around 60-30?
Around 60-30. That wouldn't add up to 100, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Hey, I f***ed up like you. I'm sorry. 60-40.
So 60-40?
Yeah, 60-40.
Okay. Jeremy.
Oh, my God. You're rubbing off on me. That's horrible.
Jeremy's left.
Jeremy's gone? Oh, he was on a phone. Left. He was on a phone. Did we lose him?
Jeremy left for the evening, apparently. So we'll just call it. But yes.
Okay. So what is it then?
305 votes in as of 10:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's currently leading 61% to 39%.
Whoa! All right, I got the right percentage, even though I said 60-30. But that, that's a hard one for me because I used to love Corey Davis too. But if you've got 2 years and now you're into the 3rd year, in the first game you get 0, it's very difficult to not think about the draft pedigree, like you say. But yeah, I mean, I can see why people would do it. There's a lot of people that are just giving up on Corey Davis. They're just going to,
This just reinforces, man. Like, look, I understand. Even if you play in a league with a bunch of sharps, it doesn't matter. Just send out trades trying to sell high on players, man. You know what I mean? Because based off these poll results, he could have probably asked for like a 2nd-round draft pick and gotten it.
Well, you know what I mean? It's funny because it's not only the fact that he got 0, but
with Corey Davis,
right?
Let me just restate that.
Okay.
Based on those poll results, he could have asked for Corey Davis and a 2nd for Terry McLaurin.
Probably. And, and it's not only the 0 points that Corey Davis got, but it's also the fact that A.J. Brown had that huge game. So then you've got these other people that are like, see ya, Corey Davis, so it's not unbelievable.
Definitely people, the hatred or the frustration with Corey Davis, definitely boiling over, and they're saying, you know what, I'm fucking done with this guy. Give me Terry McLaurin, who did look good. Again, he did look good. I don't want to undersell that. It's just, just based off of what these players were projected to be coming out of college. It's pretty incredible that you could get that type of value from McLaurin, who, quite frankly, I think the only leagues I own him in, I actually picked him up off the waiver wire.
Oh, really?
Drafts, yeah.
I just did a search on mine, and it's funny when you look under his name, 6 of the teams are Jeremy's name, so Jeremy's got him on a bunch of the teams.
Yeah, so Jeremy was definitely all over him, and our buddy from Dynasty Warzone, Memphis, Randy, he apparently got put onto him too. So definitely, I mean, he had a great week 1. I cannot deny that.
Well, we do have a couple other names here that we can probably breeze through some of these names, but there are a couple interesting ones. There's one name that for me I never particularly liked at all, anyways, and it really showed up on Thursday night was Geronimo Allison. I mean, there was some trades and some things where people were like trying to trade Geronimo Allison like a month ago, saying, "Oh, he's going to be the number 2 guy there," but it really showed up with MVS instead of him. So, what are you doing with Geronimo Allison?
Well, what the hell? I mean, you can't sell him
Yeah.
off of 0 targets.
I know.
That's not going to happen.
Uh-oh. Hey, Jeremy's back. You there?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what my phone was doing. It was like it was out of juice. It's plugged into the charger. It was like there was no power left. No idea. So I charged it a little bit, and it's at like 2%, but it's plugged in.
Oh, okay.
Die.
Hey, listen. This was fun. I like debating and arguing.
So much happened week 1. Craziness.
It's really crazy. So, everybody, wait. There is still one more sponsor that we had to mention, correct?
Yeah.
We have another sponsor, Shane. And who is that sponsor?
That's bestfantasyfootballleague.com.
There you go.
They are actually, right now, you could still join redraft leagues right now on there if you wanted to. It's not too late. You know, there's a lot of data that you took in from week 1, a lot of data points. Maybe go in there and be like, you know what? I'm going to start another league or get into another league, and I'm going to draft Marquise Brown in the first round, John Ross in the second, Devin Singletary in the third, and just build a team around those week 1 studs and just ride them out. So best fantasy.
Fun. I like their site because they have 10, 12, and 14 team leagues, 4 different starting lineups, not just one. I mean, they give you options over some of the big sites. They have live drafts, email slow drafts, just all kinds of options for people. So what's that? bestfantasyfootballleague.com.
Yep. Go check it out, guys. And also check out our Twitter account at DynastyTradesHQ. Check out our website, dynastyfootballfactory.com.
And more importantly, most important, you need to get your ass on fucking iTunes and leave us a motherfucking rating and review. If you are tagging us in all these trades that we dutifully retweet, like we go back, I want you to know something.
Yes.
When one of us goes to like a funeral, right? For instance, and say you can't be on your phone in the funeral because you get funny looks from people when you start playing on your phone at the funeral. But after the funeral, right? So you've been out of pocket for like 6 hours. We don't even just like skip. Like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to get the ones from now. We go back. We make sure we get every time you tag us in a trade, we retweet that shit. So the least you can do is jump on iTunes and give us a rating and review. We'd really appreciate it because then you help us grow.
Absolutely.
And then also
help us help you.
Yeah.
Help us help.
And make sure you become a patron. Even if you just want to talk trades, because I have a lot of people that jump in my DMs that like to talk trades. And, I don't want to seem rude saying like, hey, I'm not going to answer this question, but we have patrons and that's one of the things they pay for. And, that's I don't want to say privilege because that makes it sound all snooty and shit. But, it's just one of the perks of the things we do. You jump in the group me chat and you get, obviously wisdom of the crowd, but just some really sharp guys, including us in there talking fantasy football all day, all night. We even talk some redraft for some reason. We talk dynasty, all football, all night, every day, just nonstop. You get the extra bonus podcast. You get the uncensored version of this podcast, so you don't have to try to think about or imagine what it is that I said that was so disgusting that Michael had to bleep it. So
like when you said
today.
Like when you said 3 times talking about iTunes.
Yeah. Go on Patreon, become a patron. We got tiers starting as low as $1.
Absolutely. So go check it out. And what, Jeremy, did you just say something?
Join us.
Join us. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to go do a Patreon episode right now. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Oh, and good luck in week 2. And Shane, say goodbye.
See you next week, guys.
That's not say goodbye.
I know, but I was waiting for Jeremy to say it. He didn't say it, so then I just went to the Shane say goodbye. With Jeremy's phone, it's so off. It's like half the time I can't even hear what he's saying. Can you hear him?
Kept talking. Don't make excuses.
We can't hear you.
You have to be able to hear me.
Yeah, but
Well, we can now, but you keep like
you
jumping in like tape delayed.
Right? Doesn't
like
it sound like it?
Question from 10 minutes ago.
It sounds like it when he talks, and then there's this like blank spot, and then all of a sudden he's saying something from something before.
I said,
I'm gonna go
see
get
you
a
next
cigarette. How about if you feel like talking about any of these trades here,
Just
you can
say
pull them
goodbye.
down, just put them under the Patreon.
Okay, say goodbye, Shane.
Goodbye, Shane.